Hello, welcome to Irons United for West Ham Confidential. Yes, a brand new show looking at all things West Ham from a different point of view, you might say. Now, to kick off this series, I'm going to be talking about transfers and really the financial position that West Ham find themselves in. So, we don't have the financial results of 2019 of last season, but we do have the financial results from the year before. And what happened from 2018? There had been a drop in commercial revenue. TV revenue had gone up. There's also a slight increase in costs related to the stadium as well. Player transfers, basically there was a net minus 11 million spend there. However, the club was still owed money from transfers out as well that other clubs still hadn't paid the full price, and that's what happens in transfers. A lot of clubs will pay like an initial fee, then the add-ons still haven't been paid yet. So they still made a decent amount of money, but because the costs are so low on the stadium, we still had enough to put into the coffers for the next season, 2019. The key thing here is that West Ham were not relegated. They had a obviously bad season starting with Bilic. Moyes took over. Regardless of what you feel about Moyes as a manager and the way we played, the result is that we stayed up. We stayed up in the Premier League, which is the cash cow, which is saving all the Premier League's teams, by the way. Okay, so, a revenue for 2018 was 175 million, as I say, and so transfers, net spend was minus 11. Just got the figures here. Wages were 106 million. I mean, we all know that transfers in and out, that kind of usually balances itself out. But the big spend is always going to be on wages. £106 million 2018. Now, last summer, we had changes, didn't we? We were all calling for it. Huzilos came in. Pellegrini came in, of course. The players came in. £100 million spent. We had players going out on loan. It's exactly the same situation now. We've had a lot of players that come in that were injured for most of the season that didn't quite work out. We got some on free transfers, but our wage bill is still really high. Now we're looking at next season and how many players can we bring in and what will the net spend be on those players. Now, it was reported earlier on it was going to be £25 million of new money that's going to be injected into the club. We all think as fans that probably we've got to be looking at about £100 million, £150 million to actually really take us on to the next step. Now, let's not forget, we had a disappointing season in terms of our expectations now. We had a disappointing season in terms of League and FA Cup, campaigns as well. So whilst we finished 10th in the league, and whilst it wasn't a total disaster, and whilst there have been improvements along the way, there is definitely a need to reinvest in the squad and put more money in certain key positions, and also which players will be leaving, because we had the whole turmoil with Arnautovic, so on and so forth. So whilst there's only 25 million of new money, actually that figure is a little bit vague and sources are not really sure where that figure's come from. But the real money is now what happened last season in terms of league position and commercial revenue, and in what is going to come from the TV money as well. Now, the summer, for pre-season friendlies, there's a little Chinese adventure going on. Now, that's going to be tied into a commercial deal as well. Premier League is a huge attraction, draw all over the world, of course, and China is a huge market. Now, whether it's related to the Arnautovic deal that fell through or not is yet to be seen, but actually the commercial viability to go over to China, whilst it's infuriating for us as fans because we can't see any pre-season games until they come back, of course, actually that is going to be a big draw there, and we've got to look at sort of what we suppose refer to as residuals, merchandising, commercial revenues thereafter. That's all going to come in over this next season. What we're looking at now is how much money we're going to be able to make or generate from the players that are going out and also the ones that are coming in. We've still got a while yet until this the transfer window closes. I still think we're going to have quite a few players that are going to go out that were not fitting into Pellegrini's way of playing. There are definitely targets on the market. There are lots of names that West Ham are always linked to, and social media blows up with all this sort of stuff. But until it's actually concrete, we can't really say for sure. What is for sure, and this applies to all clubs, not just West Ham, that the management and the board are going to be looking at multiple targets. And they always will. This is due diligence. We've got to look at, say, okay, they could be looking at 10 midfielders, 10 strikers, 10 defenders, whatever it is, and saying, okay, do we need strength in depth? Do we need to double up in certain positions? Do we need to improve in certain positions, or, so on and so forth? Which players can we let go and improve the squad, and so on and so forth? All clubs are doing this, aren't they? So whilst we are linked to many players, it doesn't necessarily mean, it absolutely doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get them. And it really depends. It comes down to the amount of money that we have available and what we're willing to spend. And it comes back down to, again, the club finances and the owner's finances. How much money does the club have, and how much money does the club have to pay back to the owners, Gold and Sullivan, to offset this debt? So there's lots of issues surrounding the finances of West Ham. We wish it was clear cut, but it isn't. We've got lots of information on the web, but say nothing's right now for 2019, and that's what we're looking at right now. So looking forward now for 2019, 2020, we've got increased costings associated with the stadium. We know that. They're marginal, but they are increased. Football revenue, TV revenue is still there. Commercial revenue has been going up. If you notice, the commercial sector from the club has kind of gone into overdrive in terms of new kits, the merchandising, trying to actually beef that up a little bit. We're probably going to see greater emphasis on commercial activities on match day as well, in terms of the fan park and everything. I spoke to a couple of trade stall holders last season, and there is another layer, another management layer, if you like, between the trade stall holders, the London Stadium, and then there's this other layer as well. So and I think it was right in saying that to actually hold a pitch there, hold a trade stall, I think it was in the region of 27% of their revenue that they have to hand over. And that's a huge chunk. And I'm pretty sure it was 27%, but correct me if I'm wrong there, if anybody knows better. But they want to develop this fan park area. They want to have more trade stands. So whatever happens, there's going to be a kickback there. So the amount of that money that has been spent in the stadium, and this is the arguments that the club are always having with the stadium and also with the fans as well. This match day experience, where's this money going to, and how much money is going back into the club? You get, let's say, the scarf vendors, on the approach up to the stadium. The problem is that money doesn't go to the club, it goes into private hands. So whilst it might be good in terms of adding a bit of colour to the approach to the stadium, actually in terms of finances, it does nothing for the club. Same with the trade stalls. If that money isn't going to the club directly, then it's not really great, unless the London Stadium, the 20 LTC, are able to offset that against some extra costs that might be incurred if we want to improve the stadium. What does this mean for players coming in? Again, there's not going to be a big injection of cash that we've been made aware of as yet. The bulk of the money, we're looking at about probably at £100 million spend. But a lot of that is going to be based upon the extra money that we've come in, players that we've let go in terms of, let's say, Carroll, for example, not paying 90,000p. The amount of money that we're saving on wages and the amount of money that we can generate from sales as well. So this is what we've got to look for. It'll be very interesting to see when our financial results of last season come out, actually what is the state of play there. Unfortunately in football we don't have a clear-cut picture in terms of finances until about a year and a half, 2 years later. By then it's already a bit too late. But this is what's going to happen for the next season. We are looking potentially at another big spend if the right players are there, and also, but we're not going to look at a big injection of cash. We're going to be looking at transfers going out, or loan deals going out, and the revenues come back in. It's a very complicated picture. It's a very complicated situation to even explain, even to get your head around. Whilst most fans might be pulling their hair out, you know, as I have, in terms of, you know, what players we've got and what players can we bring in to improve. The actual point to make is that there isn't going to be a great deal of money in season 2 for Pellegrini, or new money for season 2. However, we could forecast next season for season 3, if he's still in post, by the way, that actually that's when you're going to have the big push in season 3 to push on for, you know, European places, so on and so forth. Anyway, so this has been West Ham Confidential this week. It's really about, you know, the finances that we face in. Probably not a lot of new news there. You know, we know that the club still owes debt to the owners. We know that our costs are relatively low in terms of stadium. Our wage bill, though, is really high, and our general revenue has been steady. It's started to recover in terms of commercial aspects a little bit. There's not going to be a great deal of new money injected into the club, but there will be more transfers coming in imminently. We kind of know that. We know there are multiple targets. We know that some are further down the line. And we also know that some of the players are still yet to leave the club. Which ones, we don't know. What levels, we don't know. But we know that there's definitely going to be a shift there. But, you know, you could also argue that's the same for every club. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Hope you found it useful at least. Please leave any comments below. Let me know what you think as well. And, you know, please subscribe to the channel, Irons United. Check all the social media pages as well. And there'll be another West Ham Confidential coming very soon. Cheers now.